So most times in my shorts, you can see I'm replying to a specific comment. In a lot of cases, they're like one-off comments that I just really want to reply to open up a conversation because I think it's a good talking point. But in this case, I've been seeing many reoccurring comments asking about microtransactions potentially finding their way to FromSoftware games. I think this fear is a valid response because usually when a company buys another one, they want a return on investment relatively quick. And whether we like it or not, one of the most popular ways to monetize something in the gaming environment is a business model surrounding microtransactions. Rightfully so, I saw a lot of comments that were saying like microtransactions would ruin Elden Ring or any FromSoftware Souls game, how they would boycott the game or how it would just be over, how Miyazaki would quit and it would just burn on fire and it would just be a doomsday for the whole company. And I understand the panic. I get it. Like there's a red alarm firing off right now. Everybody's really worried that the future of these games are going to be completely jeopardized because of corporate greed. And there are some very severe repercussions that could happen if this isn't handled properly. So the way I've always looked at like Soulsborne games, very simple ingredients just done extremely tastefully. They're not doing very much that's like groundbreaking or revolutionary, like hard games that have good combat and not a lot of hand-holding, a lot of cryptic puzzles and storytelling. It's nothing brand new. But those ingredients are just handled with tender love and care. It's almost like pizza, honestly. It's almost like pizza. Walking into a room, you can almost smell the difference between a good slice of like northeastern New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, upper northeast versus a pie of like Pizza Hut or Domino's. You just know. And it's not because like the list of ingredients is different between like Domino's and Angelo's, right? The difference is the love and care for the ingredients to be perfected because it's simple. And I think everybody's fear really stems from like the lack of human touch and love when it comes to over commercialization of video games. Like ultimately when we see FromSoftware, we see something very pure and something handled very carefully. And then we see games like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed that pop up like once a year. We don't know who's still buying this stuff. It's almost like the Fast and Furious franchise of video games. It's like, it's kind of cringy. We get it. It was cool back in the day, but like we all understand that this franchise has been commercialized to the absolute ground. Everybody is fearful that 4 or 5, 10, maybe even years down the road that FromSoftware will be producing an annual title that feels like AI made it, that Miyazaki hasn't had the time to touch because he's just stretched thin with all these different projects. Some of the best things he's ever made, he poured his life into, or he touched and played the game and experienced it and fixed some things like having the stakes of America next to bosses in Elden Ring. Now, I understand that microtransactions are definitely one of the biggest pain points and talking points when it comes to over-commercialization of these video games. Because, speaking of Ubisoft, speaking of Call of Duty, $70 premium titles, but you don't obtain everything through your blood, sweat, and tears inside of the game by actually playing it. You can actually go into a shop and pay for it for 6 easy payments of $4.99, and then you could just get some really flashy looking stuff. Nobody wants that in FromSoftware games. We need to talk about the fact that Sony's first-party single-player games typically don't have microtransactions or like battle passes or like extremely like in-your-face models at all. Really, most of them only usually go for like DLC, it seems. I mean, Horizon, Spider-Man, God of War even had their director make fun of the current state of business models in single-player games and microtransactions. He'd rather just see the base price go up than have to nickel and dime customers for inconvenient stuff. But the point is, like, if you want to make an assumption that they're going to do something, you have to do it based on the previous business models and history. I'm not seeing enough for me to be like, yeah, the next FromSoft game is doomed with microtransactions and pay to win and all that BS. Because I think it's just really just jumping to an irrational conclusion that we just kind of like use because of fear. Sony has been a roller coaster. It's really weird. It's like Astrobot high, Concord low. But Sony's exclusives seem to always find their way into Game of the Year awards at least being a candidate, and they do pretty well with them. I'm not saying that I'm optimistic about Sony buying this out because I do think that there are ways that they can destroy this, especially in a community of people that actually point and laugh at each other for using tools inside the game that they offer you inside of the game. Could you imagine how the Soulsborne community would be if you started swiping for things that are useful inside of the microtransaction store? It would be insane. I am pro, use what you need to get the job done, mimic tier, whatever it is, man. I don't care. Bleed, build, do you, bro. But if you buy things off the store to make the game easier, suddenly I feel like I might be pro bullying. Because microtransactions, especially in single player games, can be super anti-consumer. Like, you can obviously place those things organically inside of the game to make the game a little bit, better of an experience. You actually feel like you have some sense of accomplishment if you have to go through a cave or do some really complex puzzle or beat a really difficult boss in order to obtain something that's going to help you progress through the game. Like, after I beat Radon, I used his armor for almost the whole rest of Elden Ring, and I felt good wearing it because I beat Radon. I think it defeats the whole purpose of FromSoft game, because really it's just a problem-solving game. If you're stuck at a boss, it's because you haven't figured something out yet, whether it's a game mechanic or you haven't found the right armor set or you haven't found the right weapon. You're not doing something right. And the point is to make the ends meet. And if making the ends meet is literally just opening up a wallet and swiping a card, where's the sense of accomplishment? And the nature of that business model itself can be extremely predatory. Something that I don't like to bring up too often was how strongly I felt against the Fairy Stone issue in Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, anybody that's really a big Dragon's Dogma fan, my bad, I'm probably going to get you guys upset. I made a video warning you guys that there will be microtransactions in that game. Everybody in the comments absolutely roasted me, and I'm still waiting for my apologies. But I was right, and Dragon's Dogma 2 did have a slightly inconveniencing fast traveling system where you needed to obtain certain items found inside of the game in order to get it done. So don't misconstrue what I'm saying into me complaining about that system, because ultimately I think if you're fast traveling too much in a game, maybe the open world's a little boring. But my point is that the Fairy Stone became a microtransaction, so they made an inconvenience in the game, creating a problem so they can sell you a solution. I think that if that microtransaction didn't exist, then there's a really good chance that we would have had more drop rates of those Fairy Stones and ingredients so you can fast travel. I think that that example is a really good one of how somebody can take advantage of their customer if there are microtransactions inside of a game and they have control over the drop rate of things that are also in the game. I think that Assassin's Creed also did this in many shapes and forms, where you can kind of just progress a little bit faster or something like that. And I don't think that FromSoftware would stand for it. I think that Miyazaki would go out and create his own company before he allowed that. But if you're worried about microtransactions, I would say there's like 3 reasons why I don't personally think that they're going to exist, and I'm making assumptions, and I hope I don't eat my words because there's a very good chance I could. There really is. Like, it is very cutthroat in business models when it comes to video games nowadays. Number 1, it would be game devastating. Number 2, the fans would absolutely push back. The community would destroy whoever did that. And then number 3, of course, you need to go backwards and take a look at Sony and see how many first-party exclusive single-player games that they have made that have microtransactions. And I had a hard time finding them. I saw that, The Last of Us had a few, but that also had a multiplayer component to it. Ultimately, I saw nothing but positivity and people even bashing it. There are some things that I think really could devastate FromSoftware. Mass producing, taking some of the original artists and employees and laying them off, creating satellite studios and inflating the studios to just mass produce things that Miyazaki can't oversee or get his hands on, lack of play testing like Star Wars Outlaws and their crappy AI, adding AI. I feel like this game comes straight out of a manga, and I know that's exactly what Miyazaki wants it to feel like, and he does such a good job at making it feel like it went right from the pen to the screen. In many cases, I do embrace AI. I think that there are some things in AI that help workflow, and that's always a good thing. But when it comes to human expression and putting that down into creating something, ultimately AI will never be able to replace that. And I really don't want to see that for FromSoftware. I really want to see the human expression still continue to be poured into these games. Those are my real fears. My fear of microtransactions is probably on a pie chart, maybe. And when it comes to all of the other stuff that I just mentioned, those are where my phobias actually might keep me up at night if Sony does happen to buy out the parent company. And if you guys aren't familiar with what's going on, I know this is a little bit late in the video to be catching up, but if you guys want to know more, there's a video right here that could explain exactly what's going on with the whole Sony situation, potentially buying FromSoftware. And keep an eye out for more shorts and videos. I've been trying to produce as much as I can for you guys. We're cranking up to almost 30K, so we're going to get there. I know we are. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.